Hi, I'm Fran Drescher, and all of us at Cancer Schmancer are so excited to bring you our Health and Wellness Masterclass, absolutely free. Do you ever wonder why you get sick? What causes cancer, and how you can reduce you and your family's risk? Well, we've put a lot of time, energy, and passion into bringing you the most cutting-edge information from amazing doctors who think outside of the box, leaders in health and wellness with a fresh perspective on what we can do for ourselves, options to consider when diagnosed, and new strategies to not only survive, but thrive. I have made improving our health my life's mission because I am a cancer survivor. But it took me 2 years and 8 doctors to get a proper diagnosis. Thank goodness I had a slow-growing cancer, or my outcome might not have been so good. Now I have turned my pain into purpose, so I'm committed to sharing everything I've learned with you. All the brilliant doctors and scientists I have met over my nearly 2 decades of survival. That's why I'm bringing you this master class, so you won't have to go through what I did. Watching this free health and wellness masterclass, I hope you will feel more empowered and less helpless, and walk away with a game plan. With 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women expected to get cancer, babies being born pre-polluted with 200 to 300 chemicals found in the umbilical cord, and kids predicted to not live as long as their parents for the first time in U.S. history, the time is now to take control of your body. I'm thrilled you're here, and I know it will make a difference. Now grab a pen and notepad, because we're about to blow your mind. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey of wellness. Here in the state of California especially, cannabis is now becoming integrated into our normal life, both as a medicinal and recreational. Soon, we're going to see the dispensaries turn into stores, and you're already seeing it widely available at all of your, vitamin stores and health food stores and, drugstores even. So we want to have that panel here to discuss what is it, how do we know what to use, because there's a lot out there, and until you don't know what you're doing. But Dr. Uma has really been a leader in this, not only in turning the regulations around, so we have the option of making cannabis an entry drug rather than an exit one. And I'm going to bring her out because she's really, as I said, a Harvard medical doctor who has totally shifted into this direction and really believes that the cannabinoids that's in this amazing plant is essential to human health. So can we please give a warm welcome to Dr. Uma? Now, why don't you sit here, I think, or here, sit in the middle. Okay, and I'll sit here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So, and let me just see, because I want to make sure that I have the other, and also, can you pronounce your last name, please? Because I always call you Dr. Uma.
I'm known as Dr. Uma Dhanabalan, but I go by Dr. Uma.
Okay, good. Now, should I bring out the other people on the panel now, or?
Whatever you like to do. It's your show.
Okay, well, we can talk a little bit, and then we'll introduce the other speakers, and I'll throw, the focus to you to interview them. But I want to know, we were talking a lot about how cannabis is very useful in many problems that plague seniors. So I want to hear what your thoughts are about that. Let's make that the first question.
Before I go there, how many of you know about the endocannabinoid system? That's important because I'll come back to them.
Okay.
So, seniors, you brought up the point. We all suffer, and I make a statement. Cannabis is not an entrance drug. It's an exit drug from pharmaceuticals, narcotics, and I'm going to add one more, alcohol. Okay? Honestly, seniors are pretty much on a party pack of at least 5 medications. Blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, something for reflux that we create, and then something for anxiety or depression. Sound familiar? And most of these drugs create problems. So my 3 questions to my patients are usually, are you peeing? Are you pooping? And are you sexually active? The first 2 better be yes. So the seniors are suffering with these kind of problems, right? They either pee too much or not enough, or they're not pooping or pooping too much. So our senior population has doubled. My average age in my clinic is now getting to almost 70 years old. And we have 3 sets of patients that walk in through my door. We have either patients that have never, ever used cannabis, patients that I call are self-medicating, and sort of in my age group in their 50s where they used it in high school or college, and now their kids are turning them on to it. So those are the 3 sets of age groups that we're seeing of patients that are using this now.
Mm-hmm. So when we walk in, when we walk into a store and there's such a plethora of choices, how do we know what to get, what delivery system is best, and also if you can distinguish the difference between hemp and whole plant?
Excellent question. So let's talk about first the last thing that you mentioned, hemp and whole plant. So the only real difference is it comes from this thing called cannabis sativa. That's pretty much the main thing. And there's 3 species, cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and cannabis ruderalis. The 2 biggies that you'll hear a lot about is sativa and indica. So when we talk about hemp and cannabis, the only difference is the percentage of THC in it. If it's less than 0.03% THC, they consider it hemp. That's the only difference, folks. But my true belief is
and that's one of the many cannabinoids.
Well, that's another thing. Let's get to that.
Okay.
So the plant, cannabis, has over 400 different chemicals. It has over 100 different cannabinoids, flavonoids, terpenes. That's what gives it the beautiful smells and all the other parts of the plant. Cannabinoids, let's talk about them. The fancy one, my favorite one, which is THC. I call it the healthy cannabinoid, the healing cannabinoid, and the happy cannabinoid.
THC.
Yes. You can't spell healthcare without it either, right? But this plant has been brutalized and now it's coming back.
Right.
We understand right now we are facing an opioid epidemic, folks. Somehow, somewhere, somebody in this room is affected by somebody that they've lost from an opioid epidemic if you yourself are not suffering with it. So I've been saying it's an exit drug because we are using this as part of a toolkit, is what I say.
Is the opioid for pain?
Opioids are being used for so many things right now. Pain, mental pain. A lot of people have PTS. I leave the D off, folks, because I'm like, PTSD means you're a disorder or a disease, and I'm neither one, okay? Post-traumatic stress. That's how I like to leave it as.
Yeah.
And pain comes from a lot of different ways, right? Lack of sleep, emotional pain, physical pain. And so pain is this word that actually got us into trouble with this opioid epidemic. Because in 1996 is when we started to list this as a 5th vital sign. You know, you get that scale 0 to 10, or that happy face, where are you? And you're always asked, what is your pain scale? So JACO is another organization that was brought about for hospitals, and they said we need to address this thing called pain. And as clinicians, we are told, address it. So we started to dole out prescriptions. And opioids, painkillers, benzodiazepines. These are just a plethora of the medications. And by the way, folks, United States of America is 5% of the world's population consuming 80% of the pain pills. Unacceptable.
And pharmaceuticals are getting very rich.
Absolutely, they're killing us. I'm going to say that straight up.
And why are doctors so quick to prescribe them? Is it do they give them vacations? I mean,
Absolutely,
why
they used
have they
to.
all drank the
did.
Kool-Aid?
Well, I don't drink the Kool-Aid anymore, and neither are our patients. Patients are now making decisions. Noam Chomsky, I think, said it so beautifully. Drugs are FDA approved. Cannabis is people approved.
Hi, I'm really enjoying this Masterclass Health Summit. Aren't you? You know, because you subscribe to watch this free live stream of the Fran Drescher Masterclass Health Summit, we're offering you a very special price if you'd like to have this as part of your video collection or share it with your friends and family. It's a purchasable download, and I encourage you to get it because then you'll always have it for your immediate reference. All the wonderful information that these doctors are offering. So why don't you just click below if you're interested in purchasing a download of this wonderful 2017 Masterclass Health Summit, and it's a tax-deductible donation for Cancer Schmancer. So we've got Eben Britton, who people may know because he played for the Jaguars and Bears. He's an athlete that's using cannabis to help him with all kinds of, career-related problems. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You want to sit next to Dr. Uma?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And then one other person on this panel is actually a chef. His cookbook is in our library, and it's he's called the 420 Chef, and he's in his cookbook. He teaches you how to cook edibles that don't have the taste or smell of pot, but has the wonderful medicinal quality. So come on in, Chef. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to see you. You want to sit here? Sit here, sure. Sit here. So, I don't think I said your name, Jeff Danzer. Okay, so maybe we should start with Eben.
Absolutely.
How did you guys meet?
We met I was speaking at a cannabis conference in New York City at the Javits Center, and I was hanging out talking to some people, and this lovely lady comes up to me, and we just hit it off. And her passion in this cause, her activism, her advocacy has continued to inspire me. She's doing amazing work in Massachusetts, and I'm really just trying to get her involved with as many things as I'm doing as possible.
Can you share your story of how you ended up on this path?
Yeah, absolutely. I played pro football for 6 years, football for 15 years, the majority of my life. I just turned 30, believe it or not, last weekend.
No, I don't believe it, and I'm nauseous.
That's great.
And so,
This is wrong.
playing pro football, I suffered a laundry list of injuries, dislocated my shoulder, herniated discs in my back, pulled muscles, torn ligaments in my feet, the nerve damage from the herniated discs. I can't feel my toes still on my right foot. That's coming back slowly. But the way that's dealt with in the NFL is handfuls of pills. These are opiates, Oxycontin, Vicodin, Norco. Just really, they're highly available. It's very easy to get them. This is how pain is dealt with and managed, along with prescription anti-inflammatories that just wreak havoc on our digestive system, on our liver and kidneys, and they're just not a sustainable source of pain management. And for me, being raised by parents who are very holistically minded, people who are very aware of, taking care of yourself through food and exercise and using whatever herbal remedies or natural remedies were available before going to a doctor to get a prescription for something. So that really carried over into my athletic career, and as an athlete, I was very in tune with my body and how I was feeling, especially playing football. You're constantly in pain, constantly dealing with bumps and bruises and torn muscles, and most days I'd wake up, I couldn't turn my head because my neck was so jacked up, stiff and aching. And so when the pills made me feel insane, I'd take these things because that's what we're told is going to help us deal with the pain. I'd take these pills, and my anger and rage were just on the surface of, how I was feeling, and I was really, excuse my language, I was an asshole to the people around me who were taking care of me. They got me up at night at 2 o'clock in the morning with cold sweats and chills, and felt like a knife was turning in my stomach, and my body needed more pills. That's withdrawal symptoms. And just being very in tune with that and experiencing, I could consume some cannabis. At the time in Jacksonville, it's buying a bag of weed. That's what I used. And, I could come home from a long day of highly adrenalized work. You've got 6 hours of meetings, you've got hours of weightlifting, you've got a 3-hour full contact practice, smashing heads with, another 300-pound individual over and over again. Your body hurts. You come home and you're highly adrenalized. You've just been running on adrenaline and cortisol and testosterone. And so you need something to come down. A lot of guys, they go into the pills, they go into alcohol. These things are toxic to our bodies, especially as athletes, guys who need to be ready to go the next day. So for me, I could come home, I could consume some cannabis, and I could actually relax. I could feel my body decompress. I could feel myself getting out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, out of fight or flight, into rest and digest, so I could actually heal and recover. And so through that experience, I feel very fortunate that for whatever reason, I just kept listening to that intuition of coming back to the plant. And it served me very well. I came out of my football career, I was able to leave all the pills behind me. For the most part, I have my brain and body intact. And, I can be a high-functioning individual. I can be, a husband to my wife. I could be a great father to my kids. I can be a functioning member of society and have a positive outlook on life. It's another thing about this plant is we like to demonize the idea of feeling good. And the truth is that whenever you're in pain, you need to be lifted out of that. These painkillers, they depress and they put you into a hole. There's no healing with these opiates. Cannabis leads to healing. Cannabis leads to a good health. And so, I feel very fortunate to be here. I feel very grateful to have been.
Was there ever a concern about being tested when you were playing?
So the NFL has a very, hypocritical position with cannabis. Take all the pills and drink all the alcohol you want. Smoke all the cigarettes you want, guys. Just don't smoke any weed. As long as there's only one test. You're only tested once a year. And it really becomes, you have a general idea of when that test is going to happen. It's during some mandatory team activity or when you report back to your team. And it can happen any day from that first day back to, the first week of training camp.
But you can be positive for all the opioids, though, right?
Exactly.
But you can't be positive for this chemical known as
Well,
THC.
I bet that's probably going to change, don't you think, as it becomes more legal in the country?
I hope so. The NFL has been very slow to adopt this philosophy. I think they're really starting to feel it. One of the biggest issue, and why I feel so grateful to have, kept using cannabis throughout my football career is, our federal government owns a patent on these cannabinoids as a neuroprotectant and an antioxidant. So they've already done research and have science to show that cannabis goes into the brain and it helps it heal following a traumatic brain injury, And also, and Dr. Uma is really the expert here, this is just my own understanding of it, they help the brain heal following an injury, and they help protect it against injuries. Now, for football players, our brains are just floating in this fluid in our skulls, and all the concussions and all the impacts, concussions are the #1 issue the NFL is facing right now. The New York Times released an article probably about a month ago saying 110 out of 111 brains tested for CTE tested positive. That's 110, that's almost 100%. 87% of all football players from high school to the NFL have tested positive for CTE.
So how does the cannabis help that?
Excellent question. So you talked about a patent number 6630507. Want to write that number down? 6630507, issued on October 7, 2003. What it states is that cannabinoids, not just one, all of them have a factor of being antioxidant and neuroprotectant. It's been known for Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia, and also stroke victims, cardiac. I mean, we're talking about prevention, folks. And this goes back to some of the things about stigma. Because understand what we've been talking about today, what we put in our body, on us, and around us. Understand what cannabis was. Cannabis was food, fuel, fiber, paper, and medicine. And we changed it with the Hearst, the DuPonts, the Rockefeller, the Carnegies, and the Mellons. And then they had a badass mouthpiece by the name of Harry Anslinger. And we changed it into prohibition, not based on evidence-based medicine. And we've heard that word today, evidence-based medicine.
But how, if a guy's constantly getting knocked in the head, what does the cannabis do to help prevent him from getting
Because we talked about
permanent
inflammation.
damage? Okay, inflammation.
Okay, so we've been hearing that word repeatedly today, inflammation. Everything in your body, consider from your skin, dermatitis, conjunctivitis, esophagitis, every arthritis is an itis, inflammation. So we tell our patients, start with at least 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds every day.
Hemp seeds.
Hemp seeds that are legal. Every Trader Joe's, whatever food store has hemp seeds. So start
Should you soak it or?
No, you can. They come in all different ways. 3 tablespoons, 10 grams of protein, 20 amino acids, 9 of them are essential. Helps you pee, poop, and all of those good things that you need. And it brings down inflammation. And fish oils have the same properties, but we don't know where the friggin' fish is coming from now. So if the fish is toxic, you don't know what you're putting in your body again.
Right.
So
it has omega-3s.
omega-3 and omega-6s, and the perfect ratio. Because too much or too little is just as equally bad as what we have to understand. And I want to go back to the endocannabinoid system. Understand what this system is meant for. And doctors and healthcare providers don't know about this. Less than 15% of medical schools even teach it right now. And there's this thing called stigma. Stigma is a set of negative or unfair beliefs that a group or society has against something. And that something is cannabis. So we have to set the facts straight.
Yeah, there was a lot of propaganda done. Shortly after World War II, there was a whole campaign to encourage farmers to grow cannabis. I don't know if people really realize that our Constitution was written on hemp paper. And it's a wonderful plant, grows like a weed. We could be saving our forests. And it covers a myriad of curatives for many different things, not only medicinal, but it's paper, it's clothing, it's, fuel, and the list goes on. And that was those industrial families, went straight to D.C. and said, are you kidding me? You're going to put us out of business. Forget it. And then the prohibition began. And everybody that's, pretty much alive today has been brainwashed into thinking that it really isn't a good thing. And actually, it's only greed that has prevented all of us from experiencing the wonders of this excellent plant. Hey, hi. Oh, you're just giving us the thumbs up. Okay, I want to just flip over here to Chef Jeff, Jeff the 420 chef. See how cute? I don't know if everybody knows the 420 reference, but I do. I'm so glad that we're watching the Fran Drescher Masterclass Health Summit together. Thank you so much for subscribing. Isn't it great? I can't wait to go back and watch more. But I just wanted to tell you that on October 23rd, we are going to be doing the Fran Drescher Masterclass Health Summit 2018. And it's going to be more exciting and better than ever. You can click below or go to cancerschmancer.org and get your tickets or watch us live streaming for free on October 23rd. But if you come in person, you'll get to meet me and some of these wonderful doctors that I promise you will rock your world. Tell us how you got into this, Chef. And, what you know that you think we need to know.
Right, so I got into this a little over 5 years ago, cooking for a friend of mine's mother who was suffering from breast cancer. And she had a recommendation, because you can't get a prescription for cannabis, but you can get a doctor's recommendation for cannabis. And she said, I have this recommendation for cannabis. It's supposed to make me feel better, take away the pain, but I don't want to smoke it. I don't know how to use it. What do I do with it? And I, at the time, was not even a chef, really, but I used to make great brownies and cookies in college, and I'm like, I'll make you some brownies. So I ended up cooking for her, and that was the beginning of it all. That was really where it all started. And she loved the fact that it could make her feel really good, but she absolutely hated the taste. And she introduced me to other people who I was cooking for, and some guy pulled me aside and he said, whenever you do a meal for us, you always do what I call Virgin Sisters. So I'll do my cannabis-infused product with the Virgin Sister. And basically the same exact product, right? Same exact food, tastes exactly the same. One is cannabis, one doesn't. And now I can really do that because they taste the same.
Label it.
Yes, and I do. And there's different garnishes and different plates and everything. And unless you want to fool somebody, but at the end,
we've all had those stories at a party.
Yes, and that's actually I've changed that absolutely. But some guy pulled me aside and said, "You got to take out the taste." And I said, well, people have been trying for years to do that. I have no clue how to do it. And through about 1.5 years of research, I realized that the taste wasn't coming from the medicine in the plant. The actual medicine is housed in these tiny little glass-like crystals, right, called trichomes. And the trichomes have the THC and the CBD in them, and the little hairs have this more CBD in them. And I said, well, if the taste can't be coming from these little glass crystals, it's probably coming from the plant. So what do I have to remove from the plant? And after 1.5 years, I realized, and the process, by the way, is in my book, but you need to clean your cannabis the same exact way that you clean your fruits and vegetables before you eat them. And up until this point, nobody on the planet had ever done that before. Everybody, the old-fashioned way is you take your cannabis, right? You throw it into a crock pot with butter and oil and some water. You let it sit overnight.
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, well, whoever. Well, anyways. But at the end of the day, you're basically infusing whatever is in that cannabis into your butter and oil. This is what you're infusing into your butter and oil in addition to the cannabinoids. Now, I won't ask anybody to smell this, but it smells pretty bad, and it tastes very similar to that cannabis-y taste that most people experience in their food.
And just washing it?
It's not really, well, basically the process is a 3-day process, but it's worth it. So you soak it in distilled water for 3 days. You change the water every 12 hours. I do it in a French press because there's a really great strainer on it, right? You strain out the water every 12 hours until it runs clear. When the water runs clear, you're still not out of the woods, because you want to remove as many of the surface impurities as you can, in addition to as much chlorophyll as you can, because the chlorophyll also contributes to that bad taste. And in addition to that, although the terpenes are very beneficial for you, when you cook with cannabis, you lose the terpenes, because the terpenes evaporate between 200 and 211 degrees. And I don't really know anybody here, unless you're cooking raw food, that cooks under 325 or 350 degrees. So you lose those terpenes. So what you're getting is a residual taste of chlorophyll, surface contaminants that can be as terrible as pesticides, mold, fungus, bacteria.
Only get organic.
Terrible.
That crosses over
which
to
is very
the
difficult.
cannabis.
Yes, exactly.
Well, not as much anymore, but definitely demand organic.
Well, and even now, they're finding out that the majority of cannabis that you're buying in dispensaries in any of the legal states is contaminated with pesticides, mold, bacteria, bacteria, fungus,
not even
etc.
tested properly,
Yes,
and that's
yes,
the problem.
and that's a big problem. And if cannabis is grown from a seed that had internal pesticides, then you'll have systemic pesticides in your plant. So what my process does is it only cleans off the surface contaminants, as well as it removes a lot of the chlorophyll, but it also removes the taste for a much better experience.
And all the recipes are in your book?
All the recipes are in my book,
And
including how to do
do you
that.
also say how much a portion is?
Yes,
Oh.
yes. So the other thing people need to know is when you make cannabis-infused edibles, 10 milligrams is what they say, at least according to Colorado. 10 milligrams is basically a dose. But as Dr. Uma will tell you, you have to start low and slow and titrate your way up, right?
Yes.
Which is very important.
I just want to, we're going to have to wrap this up, but let me just ask you to tell people quickly, out of all the different delivery systems, do you have a recommendation, or how do you
Excellent
advise
question.
us?
So let's talk about that. So Dr. Uma's 3 rules are when you use cannabis. Rule number 1, always hydrate before you medicate. Why? Because you get dry mouth, dry throat, it can make you feel panicky, it can make you feel anxious, all the things that it's supposed to treat, it can cause. So always hydrate before you medicate. And like the chef has said, I never use the word dose, I use the word titrate. And what that means is you start out low or very low and slowly titrate up with food. Because some people get a little hypoglycemic and they get anxious. So always make sure you have a little bit of food on board. And the most important rule is journal. Because this is what we're teaching people about this plant. It's about you. It's about your endocannabinoid system and how it works for you. So those are the 3 rules. And as far as delivery systems, you can put it in you, right? You can eat it. You can put it under your tongue. You can put it up your butt. And we talked about butts today, so I'm all about that too. The
Rectum.
mouth and the anus are delivery systems. Very quick. If you need a quick delivery system.
So why do they sell suppositories?
Yes, and people are making suppositories or vaginal suppositories for that whole hoochie coochie candy world down there. That's another conversation. But there's women that are going through menopause and
Right.
urinary dryness, and you want to be sexually active. And if you're dry, it's dysfunction for both people. And that's what we're seeing with our patients. Their whole lifestyles are changing. They're actually becoming sexually active. They have a better relationship with their generations. And remember what the endocannabinoid system is about. Dr. Damasio uses 5 words. The endocannabinoid system is meant for us to relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. And an imbalance in any of those can cause a disease.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure.
Those-
Relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. Let's look at those 5 words. If your muscle is in a constant spasm or flaccid, if you eat too much or not enough, if you sleep too much or not enough, what if you forget too much like in Alzheimer's or dementia? What if you don't forget enough like in PTS, if you remember that event over and over? Equally important to forget. I always say jokingly, if a woman remembers childbirth, guys, you ain't getting laid. So equally important to forget. Protection. If your body overprotects, autoimmune illnesses, if your body doesn't protect, you're immunocompromised. So those are the 5 words. Relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect.
All right. Well, this is very informative. Thank you so very much. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause. All 3 of you were just great. Thank you for coming. Chef Jeff, the 420
So
chef.
reach 1, teach 10.
Thank you. Wonderful. So glad that you were able to share the story. And thank you, Dr. Uma. I'll see you. I love you too. See you back there. Hi, it's me, your host, Fran Drescher. Thank you so much for watching. Wasn't that great? Now you have some tools to stay healthy and prevent disease, as well as fresh options to consider if, God forbid, you are sick. Cancer Schmancer's mission is to educate you and your loved ones on how to transform from patient into medical consumer. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, if you want to know more, then please make sure you watch Fran Drescher's Health and Wellness Masterclass 2018, live streaming free on October 23rd at cancerschmancer.org. Please help us get this life-changing information out to as many people as possible so together we can all move into a healthier world. Share this with your friends and family. It's 100% free, so there's no downside. Remember, each one teach one. Please visit cancerschmancer.org to learn about our life-saving programs like Fran Vans offering low-income women free mammograms and Be the Change program targeting teens and tweens on staying healthy by checking labels, choosing safer products, and becoming the change the 21st century desperately needs. So happy that we had this time together and so grateful for your helping to spread the word so we can empower more people like yourself to crack the code on sickness. I love you. My prayers are for you to be well and have love and peace in your hearts.